matches during stage 1. We'll have to see if that'll be the case for stage 2 or if they've kind of honed things back in and we're going to go back to that consistent dominant form that we're used to them being in for NA. No more talk about NA though, ladies and gentlemen. It's back to one of our final matches of the day here for Europe as we've got the Vikings going up against Bossfight here on Bazaar.
The Vikings again having their little bit of early talk. They're always seeming so happy to start things off with here, but then it gets serious once we start to move out and gain some control. So already they've taken the northwest courtyards. They start to fight their way. And now the uplink is the Hotel MO. That's where it's going to be placed down. 2 players currently sat towards it for Bossfight. Then they are actually having 2, and then this is very interesting. We've got 1 player up at the north wall on the east, and we've got the northeast outskirts also being covered. So they've committed for a little bit of the long-range play from this, that they're expecting maybe Vikings to take a bit more of a rounded route rather than a direct one this time.
We'll see how this all pans out for the Vikings, of course. As like I said before, a rounded route, but unfortunately, they're immediately going to lose one of their players trying to push into the market. Femi Fungi is taken out by Scorpio to start the game off here. That was an interesting tablet spot. You see that?
He's like, I'm in the window. Look at my tablet.
He glitched it a bit there, it seems like, to be able to hold into the window. So a nice little use of the game mechanics from Scooby. A little spot to put the tablet in. I'm sure a few other players, if they weren't aware of that already, might try to use that in the future.
Now they do, for Vikings, have 1 player down in the southeast courtyard, which means that the 2 players that are holding the wall outskirts here for Bossfight might be able to spot him as he tries to work his way up. But he's not going to be able to pick anyone else off completely here because they are staying hidden, away. So as he works his way up, he's got to be careful of the cover fire he comes into because his teammates are nowhere close to give him any return refragging potential there.
Scooby-Doo still hiding out on the inside of the East Market buildings here, trying to fend off the push from the Vikings. Again, still being pretty one-dimensional with it. Besides the southern flank push that they have, pretty much everyone is focusing on a market push. You got 1 player trying to work his way in from the northern buildings. Besides that, everyone is focused on just a quick west to east sweep right now, trying to flush out the players in these buildings. This is, to be fair, where the majority of any potential defense is going to be positioned in on this uplink. And if they can take them out here without losing too many players, they've got a pretty good chance of winning the round and maybe even leveraging it into an uplink steal, which would obviously put the Vikings ahead by quite a good margin. Unfortunately, they've lost their first player here and are now trying to work back from a 4v5. I think it's pretty much all stop right now on the Vikings call sign, and just trying to hope they can find a mistake from Bossfight to try and even things out into a 4v4.
Now, I think it's going to be down to Scooby-Doo and Scorpio's positions, right? If Vikings can isolate them, take them down, then they've got a real surefire shot at that uplink. Scooby-Doo's the first player to go down, though. Can they find Scorpio straight away? He's unable to get a refrag just yet. The smoke's down as well, providing him some cover there for the Viking side. But how are they going to deal with this now? And also, how is Bossfight going to rotate themselves around? Already 1 player leaving the northeast outskirts and trying to come back round towards Hotel.
So, we've got Nalik still holding on that alley, hoping to capitalize on a peek from Bossfight now that the trade has been found. And you can see immediately after they get that kill, Mantis and some of the others, Spoilty as well, going to start pushing their way in, mainly due to a lack of time as well at this point. A minute and 50 is still a pretty good position for these guys to work into, but if they waste too much more, they're going to find themselves in a bad spot quickly. Spoilty strikes first, however, able to knock out Weather Balloon and put Vikings into an advantageous position. Mantis going to be trying to creep up on Hoochie. Perfect frag from him. Unfortunately, Scorpio waits in the wings and will be able to get the immediate trade, but it doesn't matter. Vikings are still a man up with a minute and a half to go here. Spoilty trying to chase down a player, but only ends up peeking into Lego. Lego will take him out, and we're even once again. Actually, no. Still an advantage to the Vikings, apparently, as it's down to a 2v1.
Yeah, the instant refrags come in, but Scorpio is going to put this into a 1v1. His position is now known. The smoke's gone down, but he's able to take control still. And now it's going to be up to see what the Vikings can do, because the last player left alive here, Natch Tom, he's all on his own, but he's opted for a different route. He's gone over towards the east spawn. He's got to make his way around, but he might be able to catch him off by surprise now.
This is a player that was holding way down to the south up until a few seconds ago when the rest of his team was able to successfully push themselves forward. Now this is when his flank has to impact, has to find its mark. And with Scorpio just running around, literally doing laps in the 2 buildings just outside of the uplink here, it shouldn't be too difficult of a task for Noctum to be able to spot out Scorpio, at least, and try to lock down his position. Because, just look at Scorpio right now. Sprinting around the entire area, hoping to try and catch Noctum on a surprise. Noctum just honestly seems a little bit scared to make this push, and this might be his ultimate downfall when it comes push to shove.
Yeah, he needs to have a look at this time, because he's going ever so slow here. This is not ideally how you want to play it. They could be seeing each other soon. They could be getting close. It's who's going to spot who first. Scorpio knows he doesn't have the challenges. 10 seconds left to go, and Vikings, this isn't going to work out. This is far too slow. Scorpio's in a great position as well. There's no way they're going to be losing this one.
Oh, time's going to run out far before they get the opportunity. Scorpio gets the jump on him anyway. Noxum actually won the fight ultimately, but it does not matter. As the time ran out, so Bossfight will win it on the objective timer and push ahead, taking round number 1 for themselves.
And a very slow and steady push, right, that came in. They slowly worked their way in towards the markets there. And instantly, you saw Bossfight, they had to change up their positions there. Once they managed to get in, it was a quick dynamic change coming out because Vikings, they were going to have full control. And once they got that pick onto Scooby-Doo, it was all very chaotic there in how Bossfight actually had to rerun around. The refrags were coming in, but it was literally 1 for 1 for 1 for 1, and eventually it did benefit the Vikings. And even then, though, when their final player was left alive, the time was ticking away and he was just going far too slow. And that's another thing to note for the viewers at home is they can't actually see the timer unless they go and look at it themselves. Yep. And that's a thing where they need to be very cautious on it because time could quickly slip away.
So just to give you an actual idea of what the players are seeing, it's literally nothing. They don't get ammo counts, they don't get a HUD, they don't get a timer. If they want the timer, they've got a watch on their wrist. They got to check that and see the objective timer based on that. They want to see some bit of a radar, or at least have some way to detect where the rest of their teammates are. That's what the tablet on their back is for, and they've got to pull that out in order to figure that out. You won't actually see the attackers do it that often just because it's a disadvantage, but you may have noticed in the midst of that round, we called it out that there was a tablet kind of floating in a window. That's an advantage the defenders get because, you know, for 90% of the time, they're going to be holding just static positions for a large majority of the round. They can place the tablet in a corner or in a window and use it as like a kind of a side HUD, basically, to play off of and obviously try to get info from the rest of their teammates.
Now, Bossfight, they took the first round. What can they do now is swap sides to see how this one goes down. Obviously, uplink down at the hotel, as sim as before. And now it's how the position's going to change up a little bit here. So Vikings, they've gone for quite a forward position.
Already a down happening, however. Nades today are on point once again. Mantis being able to knock Weather Balloon, and actually, even though we see Scooby-Doo and Mantis trading each other, that's a second kill being picked up from him. Scorpio will confirm the down onto Mantis, though, but it's still an advantage to the Vikings on defense now, putting it into a 4v3.
Fast action starting off. Scorpio tries to make a run for it, but the Vikings are on top of it. They're going to keep this advantage, and they're going to run with it. Two players just left alive for Bossfight, and Vikings going to be feeling really confident to try and instantly return and get the 1-1 score up on the board. We said we wanted it close, and this is certainly looking like it's going to be so, Blue.
Much, much closer to be sure here, as the Vikings have a massive advantage in this round now. It seems Bossfight tried to press the issue far too early. I mean, just look at how split their two remaining players are in comparison to where most of these kills happen. They happen either at very top of the market or close to these two buildings that separate the market from the uplink courtyard here. And it seems like the 3 players from Bossfight that pushed in just kind of went off on their own. Either that or due to a nade or some other circumstance were forced to make a move and ended up going down due to that. With only 1 trade happening as well, it's left Bossfight, the last 2, Hoochie and his teammate, in a very delicate position now.
Now, by no means is 2v4 impossible, but when it comes to it, they're going to have to really try and isolate these remaining Vikings players. Who really, they know they don't have to move anywhere, they don't have to do anything special. They literally just got to wait for Bossfight to try and come to them. Even now, the split for Bossfight, it's just a little bit too wide at the moment.
The Vikings still have so much ground covered by their positions as well here. The 4 players they have standing tall here, they're going to be able to leverage that into a whole lot more zone control and, most importantly, a whole lot more info. Now, Lego swerved away. Hoochie, in the meanwhile, has attempted to hold the market position. Lego just kind of checking out this smoke. He's immediately going to get some fire back from a player on the far east part of the map from the Vikings. Doesn't look like a whole lot of connection, though. So Lego will more than likely end up regrouping with Hoochie here. Try and go for the push. Hoochie, the problem, he's walking right into the Hornet's nest. He won't realize it probably until it's far too late. This is a pinch that they're going to set themselves up for. Spoilty already able to get a quick headshot against Lego to take him out. Hoochie's going to hope for the trade, but even if he gets it, he's going to do a quick flick to his backside. Won't even find the chance. Spoilty picks up the double kill at the end of the round, and Vikings tie it up 1-1.
A much more convincing round coming out from Vikings this time around. They managed to even out 1 for 1, but it looked a lot better than what we saw on the previous side. They went in with a game plan of what Bossfight were going to try and do there. They rushed in, but they lost far too many players early on, and also just the distance between it. We talk about them being able to, if you lose a player early on, instantly try and battle back against that before the team reposition themselves. Well, that was never even an option here for Bossfight.
And on the opposite side of the coin, Bossfight, like I said before, either getting split up or forced into a very early fight for some reason. I don't know if it was just a fast strat they wanted to try and execute and it just didn't go well, or something else happened that forced 3 of their players into an engagement. But they lose those 3 players so early on in the round. We were still at about 3 to 4 minutes left on the clock when the majority of those players had gone down, that the 2 remaining just were never really able to establish any position to work back from. They tried to push the southern street, instantly countered out by the member that was holding in the far east from the defensive team.
Yep.
Besides that, they never even really attempted a northern push. Not that it would have been too advantageous. There's only that one little alley you can push into that uplink from the north on, so probably wouldn't have worked too well. That on top of kind of the stress of the 2v4 that was set against them probably made them not go for that and attempt to just play into a standard west to east push, which, as we saw, unfortunately didn't end up going into their favor. So the Vikings come out on top of their first defensive round. Same for Bossfight, and we are now tied up.
Now we're going to see the uplink move over towards the west market here. Bossfight looking to defend whatever they can here. Vikings changing things over a little bit there. Love the thank you.
A little bit of pleasantries, of course. I think somebody gets an extended mag.
Manners are always important. Even in BR.
Even in war, you know, even in this war-torn
We've got the time to think about it. They're like, don't worry guys, plenty of time. We liked how convincing our win was before. And the smokes are down. Bossfight, they've got their positions held. We've got 1 player up towards the north wall. He's going to make sure no one's wrapping around them up from the north. But so far, so good with the Vikings. More focus towards the south. Looking at the southwest courtyard and seeing how they can work there. On the south street, they've got 1 player opening up just a little bit here, but he won't be found as of yet. At least they're here for Vikings. They've got a bit more area to work with because everyone on Bossfight is keeping themselves hidden away, at least for now.
Bossfight, like you said before, pulling in very close to the chest when it comes to their defensive setup right now. Only 2 players extended beyond the west street into the kind of western main market compound here. One holding the north to support the player that's sitting at the far northwest of the map. Another player slightly in the center to watch for any market pushes that Vikings would attempt to go for here. The south, of course, is still going to be completely covered as well due to the more standard setup we have with another player on the east side. And of course the 2 that sit on top of the uplink itself.
Waiting game for who's going to be firing off the first shots and creating the action to kick things off with here. Spoilty, he's kind of the point man at the moment for Vikings. Having a good look around to see where everyone else is. Now they do have 1 player up for Vikings, up towards the Kiot building. And this is where the player that Bossfight have up at the north wall will be key to see if he'll spot him out, because that's how you don't want to allow a player to sneak in, get in the back lines and cause a nuisance from behind.
Nalik trying to move himself forward. That's with the rest of the team here. Still holding kind of static positions. He's not going to be too keen on making this push forward anytime soon. He is the most forward out of comparison to the rest of his teammates, though. You can see Spoilty kind of over to his left, but Nalik will be the first to peek in to take a fight, because you can see, I believe it's Scooby-Doo right across the street. It's probably the first fight that Nalik would end up taking. Smokes are coming out, so a call's been made by one of their teammates. Oh, this will be a nice nade. It ends up working into the window. Is it going to connect? Yes, it does. Femi Fungi will pick up. Actually, it's going to be Weather Balloon that goes down in Nalik's nade. Scooby-Doo, however, inside of the garage across the street is picked off by Femi Fungi. Great execute from the Vikings. It's gotten them 2 kills and has certainly rattled the cages here for Bossfight at a minimum.
Yeah, Legil looks very confused here. You saw him have a little poke around, look around, made sure he's checking on this uplink as well. As Vikings now start to swarm and they're going confidently into this. Legil has to be ever so careful here. Femi Fungi is getting closer, trying to fire off into him. Legil knows there's pressure being applied.
Smoke's going to cover off his angle here as well, so Ultra take on a new position. Nice nade, might strike something, but it's looking like it's a miss. He did find another nade on the ground though, so he's got a second one to chuck into the open. That will also miss, and unfortunately makes his position far too obvious. Noctum immediately gets the down on Lego on his 3rd peek out into the open, claiming yet another kill here for the Vikings. Nalik will add more to that as he finishes off Hoochie, leaving only 1 man standing now for Bossfight.
Bossfight heavily under pressure here. It's not worked out for him once again. Vikings, they didn't sacrifice, but allowed the first player to push out, put a lot of information onto the map. And what they were able to do from there is utilize their grenades and take another win. in a very convincing fashion, only losing one player. 2-1 right now for Vikings, and they are looking to turn Bossfight's initial win on its head.
Yeah, very much so. Some good stuff from the Vikings. I think it's much more in line with what we came to expect from this team. Like I said, a very good team in terms of their tactical capability and just overall play style when compared to some of the other greats in the region here, like Bossfight, like the Beginners. Unfortunately, they just didn't get to show it too good on that last matchup due to how strong the Beginners were. So it's good we actually got them in here again for a second game, because this is obviously a much better and much more kind of expectant performance in terms of what we'd like to see coming out from the Vikings.
And that's the thing, right? Where there are some kind of differences in terms of where this team is compared to that team. You see some of these blowouts on 3-0, and actually it doesn't kind of justify and show you that actually these teams are very good and they deserve to be fighting off against some of the best teams here, because they can pull off performances like this. And we'll get to see if they can really finish things off and truly capitalize upon it with their win against the Bossfight. They're only one more point away from doing it, and they'll get to potentially pull this off on a defensive round as well. They've just successfully attacked this site, and now all they have to do is defend the same one. Victory will be theirs, but that's, of course, assuming the Bossfight also don't show up with some renewed strength on their own attacking side in order to take us to a fully loaded set, tied at 2-2, and send us to that final 5th round to determine our winner. And Bossfight there as well. I think there's the one thing that's key that I noted on this last match was they seemed a little bit more like crazed by it all. They didn't really deal with the pressure well. It was like, okay, we've lost 2 players instantly. You saw Legil go check the uplink, but then he put himself in a spot where actually, okay, I don't really know what's going on around me. The firefight started to come in, the grenades started barreling out towards him, and he didn't know where to look, where to turn, and well, he ended up going down.
It's another kind of like very quick execute as well.
Yeah.
It makes it very hard for the team that's on the receiving end of that execute to just figure out what's happening, because it led to the death of 2 players ultimately within just a few seconds of each other.
Quick, yeah.
Now remember, again, no kill feed in game for the players either. Only we're seeing that from the spectator point of view. So the defenders aren't really realizing that this is happening so quickly. And because of that, oftentimes they may not realize just how dire the situation is until they either check their tablet to try and find that info, get information from a teammate, or just don't realize it, and by the time they do, it's far too late.
The potential last round here, if Vikings can pick it up. But what has Bossfight got left in the tank? How are they going to be able to hold on to this one, as Vikings seem very confident? Yeah, boy!
I was about to say, I think I just heard a yeah, boy. They were running down the street.
He's hyped and ready. Bossfight are coming out, though, all guns blazing. Providing that cover fire, allowing players to move up, and they're just spraying away.
Scooby-Doo's going to start to work his way back, regrouping the rest of the team. It does seem like it's that very fast style of execution that we saw in the last uplink too. Now, to be honest, this completely failed when they attempted to do it before. So we'll see if they're going to be able to keep the speed up as they approach the southern street. It's not looking like it. You can already see they're starting to spread out a lot more and things are slowing down. So I think this was just the initial push from them to take the ground they have now at the southwest compound. And now obviously they'll have to slowly leverage their way across the street and on towards the uplink. The interesting thing right now, though, is the setup from Vikings. It's very off-site. You know, you've got 3 players across the street to the east defending the uplink from there. As far as I can tell, no one actually even close to the uplink, so someone in theory could just run right up on it right now. And besides that, they've got one other player way in the north.
Yeah, one up in the north. Going to be holding the wall, making sure no one's coming up towards them. But everyone from Bossfight, more grouped up together here on the southwest courtyard. But it's who's going to strike first. Now, I like what Bossfight did do at the beginning. They pushed out, they managed to secure this area straight away, which saves them any time kind of waiting out and clearing position. They wanted to get straight right into the thick of it. But the question is it going to work out once again for them? Still shots being fired, keeping their opponents guessing. Scooby spotted one out there. Shots coming back out towards him, and he now knows where it's going to be going down.
Scooby's going to continue to wait for this position to reveal itself once again. A lot of info coming out from him here too as he moves up against the wall where he'll have relative safety for the time being. Meanwhile, Vikings sit unmoved by this. Still locked in those 3 to 4 standard positions here. They've even got their north player that's moved like further out to the east too. He's checking the whole market. This could be really big if he continues to push, because I feel like what his ideal is to continue moving south to the street and then maybe try to cross, then go for the flank. That might be too bold, but we'll see.
That would be wild if he can pull that off.
Yeah, it's very rare we get like a full-on flank that happens from the defender's perspective anyway. The attackers are able to pull it off sometimes just due to the chaos of the attack, but defenders don't often get that opportunity.
I guess it really depends on how tunnel vision Bossfight are.
He's going for it though. Look, he's starting to curve down south now. Still very far away from the big grouping of Bossfight players, to be fair. but he's done a great job of clearing out like pretty much half of the map that would be relevant for this round.
The information he's able to get here is huge.
So he knows that they're like all pushing from the south now, basically. He can call that pretty confidently at this point. As soon as he checks this last, extremity on the east side of the map, I'm actually starting to wonder why he continues to go this far east. Because you very rarely see the attackers try to extend this far east on this uplink, so.
He's heard something, he's like, I smell blood. There must be someone over here.
I think at this point now he's just watching the southern street to make sure there's no flank attempt. But meanwhile, for Bossfight, obviously, they're focused on this main push. They've only got 2 minutes left to make this happen. So they do need to find a way to get across the main street. That's where the focus is for them right now, because they're going to use the shield from Weather Balloon. Spoilty, however, is able to knock out one of the attackers that attempts to push in. I believe that is our flank player. No, it's Mantis actually that's in the street right now. This is even better. But Spoilty picked up a kill from the inside, and now Mantis can run in for this massive flank. It should work, too. There's no reason to expect a player in the street. Noctum is going to be able to find one. Mantis yet to strike, but he's in position for it now. All he's going to do is spot players through this smoke, and he's got multiple kills coming his way.
Instantly, as the initial fight started to go down, he moved out. Only one player left to find, and that's not the way you want to get it done. Oh dear, you hate
what happened
to see
there?
it.